boys and men and women, boys and girls, who will dedicate everything for this cause. And what is that cause? What was the philosophy of Swami Vivekananda? And he said, my philosophy can be said in 2 lines: to make people aware about their divine nature and to help them to manifest it. That was the great desire of Swami Vivekananda, and he himself said, it is a great temptation for me. And he established this organization, Ramakrishna Mission. But where from he learned the Vedanta? He learned it from his guru, Bhagavan Sri Ramakrishna. His guru, apparently, for many people, they think that he is a dualist, but in reality is a Vedantin. It is very difficult to understand the Vedanta, the subtle way it manifests. That Vedanta, today we will listen, Bhagavan Sri Ramakrishna, the embodiment of Vedanta, from a great exponent of Vedanta nowadays is Swami Sarvapriyananda. So he has very kindly agreed to deliver a talk on Sri Ramakrishna, the embodiment of Vedanta, from whom the great Swami Vivekananda learned Vedanta. So may I request Swami Sarvapriyananda ji.
Om Sthapakaya cha dharmasya sarva dharma swarupine avatara varishtaya Ramakrishnaya te namaha. Revered Swami Ishatmananda ji Maharaj, revered Swami Varadananda ji Maharaj, dear devotees, it's a great pleasure to be back here in Chicago in the Vedanta Society here. And on this auspicious day, 1st May, when, as Swamiji said, this mission was born. Vedanta is ancient, but Swami Vivekananda has this credit of setting up a machinery to spread Vedanta across the world. His mission actually began here in Chicago in the Art Institute in 1893. And it is embodied in this organization, which is a worldwide organization. And not only just in the Ramakrishna Mutt and Ramakrishna Mission, in the Vedanta societies. Yesterday I was at the Chinmay Mission. All of these new organizations which have come in the last 100 years, they are basically all manifestations of the same idea which Swami Vivekananda had. You know, they are more like newer and newer versions of this same idea which Swami Vivekananda embodied in the Ramakrishna Mission. It's a very significant day and a very significant movement. Now, as revered Maharaj said, Sri Ramakrishna is often regarded as, and somebody said, a very simple devotee. He's a devotee of Mother Kali. Kali is the mother, he is the child. That was his attitude to the mother. So a bhakta, a devotee. One normally would not associate the intricacies of non-dualism and subtle logic and dialectics with Sri Ramakrishna. Though one must not forget, we are Vedantins today because of Sri Ramakrishna. Sri Ramakrishna was, I was just saying to a Swami yesterday from the Chinmay Mission that so many strands of thought, so many traditions flow through Sri Ramakrishna. Vaishnava Bhakti, the Tantra, worship of the Divine Mother, the Shakta tradition, even Christian and Islamic practices, all through Sri Ramakrishna. But first and foremost, he was a disciple of Totapuri, through whom comes this ancient tradition stretching all the way back to Shankaracharya, maybe 1400 or 1500 years ago, and through Shankaracharya way back to the sages of the Upanishads 4,000–5,000 years ago. Just a couple of weeks ago, I was at New York University. There was this dialogue with a scientist on consciousness and life, I spoke about Vedanta, and this scientist, a brilliant person who teaches data science and neuroscience and artificial intelligence at NYU, he was thunderstruck. He said, where are these things coming from? This, what you are saying, how old is it? It's 5,000 years old. It's been around for a long time. So, Advaita Vedanta, non-dual Vedanta, is the core philosophy. Sri Ramakrishna himself would say, Advaita Gyan Achole Bedhe Jai Chitai Karo. Tie the knowledge of non-dualism to the hem of your cloth. You know, in Bengal, in many parts of India, ladies wear the sari, and they would tie a bunch of the household keys, you know, to the hem of their sari like this. So Sri Ramakrishna says, tie the knowledge of Advaita to the hem of your cloth. That means make it the foundation, and then do whatever you like. Be a bhakta, wonderful. Be a great person of action and service, a great karma yogi, wonderful. Dive deep in meditation and remain centered in the non-dual reality, a dhyani, meditator, wonderful. You can do whatever you like. Any path of spirituality, any manifestation of the divine based on non-duality. Swami Vivekananda, he says about Sri Ramakrishna, he says that I seem to be jnana on the outside, Vivekananda speaking about himself, but inside I am very soft, I am a devotee, I am a bhakta, I am bhakti inside. But he would call Sri Ramakrishna the old man. The old man is outside he seems to be a devotee, inside he is all jnana. He is a devotee on the outside, inside he is all jnana. What I'll speak to you today about is based on a text written by Swami Brahmananda, who is right there, Swami Brahmananda. Swami Vivekananda definitely was the missionary, the spreader of Sri Ramakrishna's message and mission to the world. But Sri Ramakrishna had a special spot for Swami Brahmananda. He regarded Swami Brahmananda as his own spiritual son. Swami Vivekananda said that Brahmananda is a dynamo of spirituality. He was very quiet. He didn't lecture. He didn't write books, except one. And that book is this one. This is called Sri Ramakrishna Upadesh in Bengali. It's a collection by Swami Brahmananda, the choicest teachings according to him, the choicest teachings of his master. He collected it in this little book. It's been translated into English, a rather indifferent translation, words of the master. Yes. And Swami Brahmananda did not write any other books. What he did was, he just collected these teachings of Sri Ramakrishna, put them down in this little book. And if you see the book, it's point-wise, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, just single 1 or 2 sentences each. He did it in Benares, Swami Brahmananda. He would sit late at night and write. And he says that one day he had this vision of Sri Ramakrishna coming and saying, I didn't say it this way, I said it that way, change it here. So Sri Ramakrishna is the teacher here, Swami Brahmananda is the editor, the compiler, and Sri Ramakrishna is also the proofreader. He's checked it. So this is a very significant collection. It should be given more prominence than it is actually given these days. Swami Ashokanandaji, who was the head of the Vedanta Society in Northern California in the 1940s, 50s, 60s, he used to say, this book is a little classic. It's a classic of spirituality. In the future, people will carry it around in their pockets. So when I read that, I started carrying it around in my pocket. And ever since, I've been so many years now, I've been carrying, I don't know how much I read it, but I carry it in my pockets wherever I go. But it's peculiarly relevant today. Why? It begins, the very first teaching. I'll just read out a couple of 2 or 3 points from the very first page, first and second pages, just points 1, 2, 3. And you will see what is non-dualism and what is Sri Ramakrishna. So these are the teachings compiled by Swami Brahmananda, the teachings of Sri Ramakrishna, and you will see the first and the second teaching is about non-duality, about third teaching is about Advaita, non-duality, fourth and fifth and sixth. You wouldn't think it by reading about, Sri Ramakrishna in Sri Ramakrishna's life, in the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. But you see here this compilation. And let's dive straight into it, and you'll see what I mean. I'll read out the Bengali. For those of you who understand Bengali, it will be nice. And I'll translate immediately, of course. So the teachings of Sri Ramakrishna, point 1 of this entire collection, point 1. Manush apnake chinte parle Bhagavan ke chinte pare. The very first sentence, Sri Ramakrishna's teachings, which Swami Brahmananda thinks it worthwhile to make it point number 1 in this whole collection. When a man knows who he is, when we know who we are, we know God. You know yourself, you know God. This is a Mahavakya. Tattvamasi, that thou art. I am Brahman, Aham Brahmasmi. Mahavakya is that which expresses the identity of the Jiva with Brahman. Jiva Brahma Aikyam, the identity of the individual sentient being, us, I, and the ultimate reality, Brahman. Any sentence which expresses this is called a Mahavakya, a great sentence, a profound sentence. And we have selected these 4 Mahavakyas as representatives from the 4 Vedas. You know, the very well known Tattvamasi, that thou art, from the Chandogya Upanishad, Sama Veda. In the 6th chapter of the Chandogya Upanishad, Shvetaketu's father tells him no less than 9 times, Tattvamasi, that thou art. You are that ultimate reality. Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahman, from the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, which is Yajur Veda. Then Ayamatma Brahma, this very self, you, your own reality is Brahman, the ultimate reality. Ayamatma Brahma, from the Mandukya Upanishad, Atharva Veda. Prajnanam Brahma, consciousness, awareness, which you are feeling right now, rightly understood. Prajnanam Brahma, consciousness itself is Brahman, the ultimate reality. From the Aitareya Upanishad, Rig Veda. So 4 sentences from 4 Vedas as representatives, because there are many more sentences which say exactly the same thing. So all of them technically are Mahavakyas. And this, in Bengali, when a person knows who he is, he knows God. When you know yourself, you know God. This is Mahavakya. It expresses the identity, our identity with Brahman. And then he goes further. Notice, when one knows, not when one believes. It's not a question of believing something. It's not a question of experiencing something new. It's not a question of doing something. He's not talking about bhakti here. He's not talking about karma here. He's not even talking about dhyana here. He's talking about clearly jnana, when one knows, when one when one knows oneself as Brahman. How do you know that? How do you know anything? How do we know anything at all? Through inquiry. We must ask, we must inquire, we must investigate. And look at the next sentence, which Sri Ramakrishna says. Ami ke bhalo roop bichar korle dekhte pawa jay, ami bole kono jinish nei. When one inquires thoroughly, vichara, when one inquires thoroughly into what I am, you will see there is no such thing as I. It will disappear. Notice the emphasis, vichar. Often when we read the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna is speaking out against vichara. Don't do too much of vichara, don't do too much of dry reasoning, logic chopping. But here, the very first teaching which finds pride of place is vichara, inquiry. This is the royal road to enlightenment. Everything else, bhakti, devotion, the glorious tradition of devotion comes next. Meditation comes next. Action, karma comes next. If you are Hindus, your religion is based on Upanishads, and the glorious royal road to enlightenment is inquiry in the Upanishads. It's a knowledge tradition. It's a tradition of inquiry. Everything else is completely secondary. So he says, if you inquire into who am I, and then he says something startling. We know, yes, we have heard Upanishads, Vedanta. Yes, when I inquire, I will find I am Brahman, Atman. He says, no, you won't find anything. You will find there is no such thing as the I. Startling. coming from a Hindu teacher, if it comes from the Buddha, who's right there, I think Buddha is smiling. I told you so. There is no such thing as the self, the not self. And so Sri Ramakrishna says you won't find anything. When you inquire into the I, you will find there is nothing corresponding to the I. It disappears. And then he explains further. Hat, pa, rokto, mangsho, ittadi, er konta ami. যেমন পেঁয়াজের খোসা ছাড়াতে ছাড়াতে কেবল খোসাই বেরোয়, সার কিছু থাকে না, সেই রূপ বিচার করলে আমি বলে কিছুই পাইনি. Startling sentence. It's like a teaching from Nagarjuna, Buddhist school of emptiness, Shunyavadi. He says, when you inquire, I, what do you mean by I? See, what he means is, if you use a word, it refers to something. When I say book, it's a word, it refers to this. When I say cloth, it's a word, it refers to this. When I say I, what does it refer to? We'll immediately say, why? It refers to I, here, I. Oh, you mean the body? Let's take a look at that. You mean the mind? Let's take a look at that. He says, when you inquire, you will find nothing corresponds to I. There's nothing that corresponds to I. And he gives an example, like peeling an onion. You want to peel the onion, and like you peel a fruit, so you get to the edible part. You peel an onion to get to the substance, you won't find, you just find the peel. More peels after that, one after another, and then finally, that's it, it's all peel. There is no substance apart from that. If you inquire into the I, you do not find anything substantial corresponding to the I. If he stopped there, he would be no different from Nagarjuna. He would be saying what the Buddha said. There is nothing positive, no entity, separate entity corresponding to the term I. But then he doesn't stop there, he goes further on, but I'll leave you in a little bit of suspense. What does he say? First, let's do the inquiry he talks about. So I am the body. Why not? It seems pretty obvious, here I am the body. But let's consider this. Well, notice one thing about the body. It changes. It changes continuously. From conception to birth, to babyhood, to childhood, to youth, to middle age, to old age, disease, death. Changes continuously. Comes into being, develops, and then matures, and then begins to deteriorate, and then dies. Which one of these is you? Somebody said that, a doctor in fact said that nothing in this body is permanent. Just about everything is replaced by the end of 7 years. Over a period of 7 years, every cell of the body seems to have been replaced. I don't know how, I mean, of course, it's not that it happens suddenly at the end of 7 years, like a snake shedding its peel, it's not, its skin, it's not like that. But over time, everything in this body it's a stream of matter flowing through this physical system. Everything changes here. Which one is you? Is the baby body you? This body which you have now is tremendously different. It's physically different. The constituents of that body are not the constituents of this body. The form and the size and the shape of that body is not this. Even the physiology of that body is not this body. It's so different. And yet, I have this intuitive sense, I was in that baby body. I am in this mature body. And it's the same I. The same I and a wildly different, continuously changing body. How can they be the same? Changing and unchanging, how can they be the same? Changing and unchanging cannot be the same entity. So, I, the intuitively unchanging entity, and the clearly changing body, we cannot be the same thing. There is the body, it is changing, we are not denying that, but am I literally this body? Doesn't seem to be true. So, in Sanskrit it's expressed, all of this is expressed in pithy term. Savikara, nirvikara. Savikara means subject to continuous change. In Sanskrit they talk about the sixfold changes. Asti, you come into being in the moment of conception. Jayate is born, the body is born. Vardhate, it grows from babyhood to childhood to teenage, and it develops. Then he says, Viparinamate, it matures, reaches a certain state of maturity. Apakshiyate, begins to age and deteriorate. And Nashyati, dies, falls apart finally. Sixfold changes. And yet I am the one unchanging I, whoever I am, whatever I am associated with this continuously changing body. Sixfold changes. Please settle down, yeah. Sixfold modifications of the body. So I cannot be this ever-changing body. Look at it from another aspect. This body is experienced. Whatever I experience must be an object of experience, different from me. In Sanskrit, drishya. So I experience this table. I can see it, I can touch it. It is an object of my senses. And I don't think that I am this table. It's an object, I am the subject. I am the experiencer, this table is experienced. I am the drashta, this is drishya. Because it's an object and I am the subject, because it is known and I am the knower, I am the drashta, the seer, the knower, this is drishya, the seen, the known, it's an object. I am not an object. I am that which knows or experiences objects. And because it's an object, I am not the table. You say, yeah, that's fine, we are not the table, we know that. I am not the chair I'm sitting on. But what about the body? The body is an object to all my senses. I can see the body here. I can touch the body. I can taste, smell, even hear the sounds in the body. The body is something that is objectified by all my senses. It's a thing. It's that which a doctor can examine just like any other thing. I am that which experiences this body. And yes, through the body I experience the world, there's no doubt about it. But because the body is an object, I am the subject, I am the knower, the seer, the body is the known, the seen. I am drashta, this body is drishya. The two can never be the same. In no case do you see anything, do you experience anything in the world and say, I am that block of stone, or I am that electric pole. We never say that. It's an object to us. This is also an object. It's a startling fact, but the body is an object. I cannot be the body because it's an object. I am the subject. Look at it another way, more subtle, but very interesting point, that you are aware. You're aware right now, hopefully, because Vedanta is very yawn-inducing. So, you are aware, and you are aware of the body. You are aware of everything else. Those things are not aware of you. Think about anything in this room. Is there anything which is aware of you? Nothing. Yet the chair you are sitting on is not aware of you. This room is not aware of you. These computers are not aware of you. Even the camera which focuses on you is not aware of you. That Swami, you're forgetting all these people are aware of me. Are they? Are they? They are aware of the body. If they were telepaths, they would look into your mind, they would be aware of your thoughts. But are they aware of you, the conscious being? Tell me. No. You, the conscious being, you, the sentient being, you, the awareness, you are only aware of yourself. You are the only one who is aware of yourself. Nobody else is aware of you. They may be aware of your body, of your language, of your behavior, but they are not aware of you. They have no access to you, the consciousness, directly. The only thing that is aware of consciousness is consciousness itself. You are aware of yourself. Think about it. It's a very, very strange observation, but when you think about it, it's pretty obvious. You are Chetana, conscious, aware, and whatever you are aware of is Jada, is an insentient object. The body, you are aware of the body. The body is not aware of you. I am aware of the body. The body is not aware of me. I am aware of the hand. Is the hand aware of me? No. The hand is not aware of itself. The hand is not aware of me, of anything else, but I am aware of the hand. I am Chetana and the body is Jada. I am sentient, the body is insentient. This is enough to be going on with. Because of these three reasons, body is changing, I am unchanging. The body is an object, I am the subject. A body is not aware, I am aware. Because of these reasons, I cannot be the body. In Sanskrit, savikara nirvikara, drashta drishya, chetana jada. All of this argument can be summed up in these short little Sanskrit words. Because of these reasons, I cannot be the body. It's not enough to argue. Once you argue this, once these reasons are understood, then one must also see for a fact. When I say that, I know I am not the table. It's not just an argument, it's a fact for me. I am not the table. It's very clear to me. And that, at that level, at that intensity, that clarity must be there. I am not the body. I say, yes, but I am not the body, but I am this mind, you know. I am this person. I am an embodied mind. I am a person. That's what most of us we feel. Grown-up people, thinking people, educated, thinking, sensitive people, we feel we are persons. We don't say that we are exactly the body, but we are this person, embodied person. Mind. By mind, I mean thoughts, memories, intellect, the ego, I, sense of I, our personal stories, individual identity. This is the mind. Say, yes, Swami, you've got it right. That's who I am. I'm a mind in the body, but I'm a mind. Are we really? Apply the same logic, the same arguments. Does the mind change? Oh, it does. If anything changes, it's the mind which changes. Every day it changes so much. Every moment it changes so much. Thousands of thoughts, feelings, emotions, perceptions, ideas. Today, right now, from the morning till now, how much it has changed. How many times, how much sleepy and then awake after a cup of coffee, how many times irritated, how many times relaxed, how many times bored, how many times curious, how many times frustrated, how many times excited. In one day, from the morning till now, imagine how much the mind changes. Imagine the mind, our thoughts and feelings which we had when we were school kids. How different it's from the way we think and feel now. It would be like the mind of an alien, the mind of a 10-year-old or a 5-year-old or a 2-year-old, so different from us. And yet, I feel I am the same one who was there. I am the one who had those thoughts and feelings. I am the same one who has these thoughts and feelings now. So the mind continuously changes. I don't change. Is the mind an object? Are we aware of the contents of our mind? Yes. Thoughts, feelings. When I'm happy, I'm aware that I'm happy. That's why I say I'm happy, I'm delighted. When I'm miserable, when I'm depressed, am I aware of my depression? Of course. That's why I suffer. I'm aware of my depression. If I am not aware, I wouldn't be depressed. I'm aware of my depression. I'm aware of my happiness. Thoughts, emotions, ideas, memories. I'm aware of all of them. And they are something that I'm aware of. They are the object, I am the subject. My mind is also drishya, and something that is experienced. I am the experiencer of the mind. If it's I am the experiencer, the drashta, the seer, the mind is something that is experienced, seen, drishya, I cannot be the mind. I cannot literally be one with the mind. Yes, the mind is there, changing, seen, experienced. But I am not the mind. This is a huge point to think about. And when we think about it, it gives a lot of freedom, a lot of peace, a lot of sense of lightness. Mind, it seems so insubstantial, it's a huge burden to carry around. So we see that we are not the mind. It's a thing, it's an object. Even more startling, is the mind aware? And when we think about it, we will immediately, our response is, of course the mind is aware. What else is aware? The mind is full of awareness. Thoughts, aware. Consciousness studies today, if you ask a professor of neuroscience or a philosopher in consciousness studies, what is it that you are studying? Give some examples. They will say thoughts, feelings, emotions, perceptions, ideas. This is consciousness? No. If you notice something, thoughts are not conscious. You are conscious of the thoughts. I'll demonstrate it right now. Think a thought. Swami, no thought comes to mind. My mind is usually full of thoughts, but when you ask me to think a thought, it goes blank. 2 plus 2, 4. A, B, C, D. Just think a thought, A, B, C, D, or 2 plus 2, 4. Now, notice, am I aware of A, B, C, D, or 2 plus 2, 4, or is A, B, C, D aware of me? No, I am aware of the A, B, C, D. It's a thought in my mind. It's like mental talk. That ABCD in the mind is not aware of itself or anything else. It's not aware of me also. It's not aware of other thoughts. You think ABCD, think 1 plus 2, 1, 2, 3. Is ABCD aware of 1, 2, 3? No. Is 1, 2, 3 aware of ABCD? No. I am the one who is aware of both of these thoughts. This awareness shines upon these thoughts and illumines, just like this light shines upon everything in this room and illumines it. Awareness illumines its contents. So, the thoughts are not the contents of the mind. The mind by itself is not sentient, it's not aware. It appears to be sentient, it appears to be aware because it's so proximal to you, the awareness. It shines with a borrowed light. Like if I put my hand here, my hand seems to shine. See, the hand is dark here. The moment I put it here, my hand seems to shine. Swami, you have got spiritual powers, you are radiating light. No, it has no light of itself. It's just borrowing the light, shining upon it. Similarly, our thoughts, they shine in you, the consciousness. You shining, the thoughts shine. By your light, all thoughts, emotions, perceptions are lit up. Tameva bhantam manubhati sarvam tasya bhasa sarvamidam vibhati. The Kathopanishad says, glorious poetic language. That shining, everything else shines. By its light, everything here is lit up. That shining means consciousness shining, everything is shining. By the light of consciousness, everything here is lit up. You shining, everything in your life shines. Shines means it's revealed. By your light, or more precisely, by you the light, everything here is lit up. But because of these reasons, what are the reasons in Sanskrit again? Savikara, nirvikara, drashta, drishya, then chetana, jada. Because of these reasons, I am not the mind. Mind is there, but I am not the mind. I am unchanging, mind is ever changing. I am the experiencer, the mind is experienced. I am aware of the mind. The mind is not aware of me or anything else. Therefore, I am not the mind. Now that this is problematic, then what am I? If I push further back, nothing, blank, as Sri Ramakrishna says. In the Taittiriya Upanishad, the second chapter of the Taittiriya Upanishad, there is the Pancha Kosha Vichara, the analysis of the 5 layers of the human personality. Am I the body? There it is called the Annamaya, the food sheath. The body is made of food. Am I this food body? No. Why not? Because of what I said just now. It is changing. It is an object and it is not aware. I am unchanging. I am not an object. I am the subject. I am aware. Beyond that, subtler than that, Upanishad says, Anyo Antaratma Pranamaya. Physiological processes, life. Am I these physiological processes which keep the body alive? Same thing. The prana is changing. I am not changing. Breathing in, breathing out, changing. Hunger, thirst, then satiety after you eat, changing. Health, then illness, then recovery, then health again. Prana is changing, continuously changing. You are the same one who experienced health of the body. You are the same one who experienced the illness of the body. You are the same one who experienced the recovery of the body. The prana changed, but you have not changed. Similarly, the mind, Anyo Antaratma Manomaya. So, am I the mind? Again, the mind is continuously changing. It's an object of it. I am the subject. It is not aware. I am aware of it. Therefore, I am not the Manomaya Kosha also, the mind sheath, in the language of Taittiriya Upanishad. Go further inwards. I am searching for who am I? Anyo Antaratma Vijnanamaya, the intellect. That capacity which we are using right now to try to understand what's going on here. That's the intellect, the capacity to understand, the highest function of the human mind, the greatest gift of God to humanity, intellect, by which we have all the discoveries of science. Am I the intellect? Am I intelligence? Does it change? Intelligence. It goes from not understanding to understanding? Yes. Are you aware of understanding? Yes, of course. Get delighted. I got it. I cracked the mathematics problem. So, yes, I'm aware of it. And is the intelligence aware of you, or are you aware of the intelligence? You are aware of the intelligence. When you solve a mathematics problem, that is not aware of you. You are aware of the solution. So the intellect itself also is changing, savikara. It is drishya, an object, and it is insentient, jada. You are the conscious entity, unchanging and subject. If you push beyond the intellect, just imagine shutting down everything. You are not experiencing the body, not experiencing the senses, not experiencing the mind, the prana, the mind, the intellect, everything shuts down. It's like deep sleep. Yes, deep sleep. Anandamaya kosha in the Taittiriya Upanishad. Am I that Anandamaya kosha? No again. Because that also comes and goes. That is also a kind of experience, deep sleep. That is not aware. You are aware of that. So the Anandamaya, the deep sleep state, is also not the Atman. Then what? Then what is the self? We are looking for the self. Because why are we looking for the self? Sri Ramakrishna said, when you know yourself, you know God. So we are looking for self in order to know God, the ultimate reality of this universe. But we can't find the self, the mystery. You are not the body, not the prana, not the mind, not the intellect, not even the causal state beyond body, mind, intellect. So, what am I? And Sri Ramakrishna says, you will not find anything. It's like peeling the onion. You stop there. So, are we being taken for a ride? There is no answer to the question, who am I? Well, why did you invite us here on 1st May? You could have talked about something else. Except there is nothing. And then Sri Ramakrishna says, next, if you stop here, it is Shunyavada Buddhism, the Madhyamaka philosophy. Although it's actually Madhyamaka philosophy points to something deeper, but they use negative language. They will never say, you are infinite consciousness, existence. No, no, no. We understand their approach from an Upanishadic perspective, because the Upanishadic perspective has both the negative and the positive expressions of the same truth. I remember once I was in Nanded in India. That's the place which is very close to the Sikh religion. Guru Gobind Singh, he made Guru Granth Sahib the text, the guru of the Sikhs after the 10 gurus. So no more human gurus, but the Guru Granth Sahib is the guru of the Sikhs. And that happened in Nanded, and the Sikhs celebrated 300 years of that event. It's called Gutta Gaddi. And there was an interfaith conference. I went there, and people came from different religions, representatives of Christianity, Islam, Judaism, Hinduism, Sikhism, of course, Buddhism. Now, people from all the different theistic religions were talking about this one God, we are all the children of God, and then there were these lamas sent by the Dalai Lama. They were sitting in the back and they were smiling. Why? From their perspective, what God? What are you talking about? They are very gentle people. They will never... but from their perspective, this God talk is superstition. There is no such thing. If you investigate, even soul, Atma, when you investigate, you will not find anything. As Sri Ramakrishna says, just as we investigated just now, we find nothing. Body is not Atma, mind is not Atma, intellect is not Atma, prana is not Atma. What is the self then? So they were sitting and smiling. The next day, I was sitting at breakfast table with the lamas, and only one of them knew a little bit of Hindi, others knew only Tibetan. So the lama who knew Hindi, he was interpreting. So he said, our teacher, who is senior lama, who is sitting there at breakfast table, he is asking, please tell us about your Vedanta. So I said, from Upanishad, Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. Brahman, the ultimate reality, is infinite existence, consciousness. Immediately they go, translated, immediately they go, no, no, no. Satchidananda, existence, consciousness, bliss. No, 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 no. And I realized it's just not the way. It won't work this way. You have to try the other way. So I quoted, Esha neti neti atma. The Atman is not this, not this. What do you mean by not this? It's not the body, not the mind, not the prana, not the mind, not the intellect, not even the causal state beyond the body, mind, intellect. And then it's nothing, not even that. It's not none of the things that you know. Then it is completely unknown, not even that. Then it's none of the things which exist. Then it's non-existing, not even that. Then they went, like football players going into a huddle. They go together like this. So the lamas went together like that, and they discussed something in Tibetan. Then they turned around, they were all smiles. And then the interpreter told me, our teacher says, you can be a good Buddhist, you come to our side. I said, this is not Buddhism, this is from the Upanishads. Same truth can be expressed in negative language also. Sri Ramakrishna, somebody said to Sri Ramakrishna that Buddha was an atheist. And Sri Ramakrishna said, why should he be an atheist? Why is an atheist? He realized the ultimate truth, but he could not express it in language. And that is the teaching of Buddhism. And this is the teaching of Sri Ramakrishna. He would have been exactly the same, but what makes him a Hindu? The next sentence which he says. First, what did he say? You can't find anything like peeling an onion. That's it. You select I and try to search for it. The 5 koshas, nowhere you will find I. Anywhere you try to search, what is the meaning of the word I? What is the reference of the word I? No reference. It disappears like a ghost. There is no such thing corresponding to I. Then what about our precious Atma, immortal soul? Well, we are Hindus. We become very upset. Where is the Atma gone? Next, Sri Ramakrishna says, Sheshe ja thake tai Atma Chaitanya. That which remains in the end of analysis, end of this inquiry. That which remains, which cannot be doubted, which cannot be, you can't say neti neti, not this to it. That is the Atma. What is that? He says Chaitanya, consciousness. What does this mean? And if you're going to say consciousness, then why don't you say it? You say, body is not the Atma, body is not the self, prana is not the self, mind is not the self, intellect is not the self, the causal state is not the self, Chaitanya, consciousness is the self. Say it outright. Why go through this mysterious process? There's a reason. Annamaya, Pranamaya, Manomaya, Vijnanamaya, Anandamaya, the 5 layers, there are none of them. Whatever you can know, whatever you can point to, that this is the self, is not the self. Upon inquiry, you will see it's not the self. The Buddhists are absolutely right. Then, this is where my favorite story comes into play. What do you mean by this? The 10 friends who crossed a river, the old Indian story. 10 friends crossed a river, and when they crossed the river, they had this doubt. Did all of us cross safely, or did anybody drown? Let's count. So one of them starts counting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh my God, that can't be right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh my God, the 10th person has drowned. Our dear friend is dead. He drowned in the river. And another person says, no, you are not right. Let me count. And everybody counted, and they found only 9 people. And they started weeping and wailing and mourning the loss of their dear friend. And a wise passerby comes by, and he says, what's the problem? We crossed, and our friend drowned and died. How do you know? Well, there were 10 of us, and now there are only 9. How do you know? We counted. And that man must have counted and seen 10 of them. He realized what had happened. He said, the 10th person is there, don't cry. That's what the Guru tells us. That's what the scriptures tell us. There is an ultimate reality. Death is not the end of your existence. It's the end of the body. There is something beyond this material universe. Don't cry. Don't weep. Where is the 10th person, they ask. I'll show you. Count. We have counted. Count again. Humor me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That man took the counter's hand and turned it this way. Thou art the 10th. 10. And this man goes, wow, let me try. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh, I found the 10th man. What delight. And all the rest say, let me try. And they try, and they all find the 10th man. They're all enlightened. What has happened? See, why is it, we may laugh at them, but we are doing exactly the same thing when we are searching for the I. Tell me, why did he not find the 10th man? Because he was not counting himself, obviously. But tell me, why was he not counting himself? Because he expected the 10th man to be out there. Right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Now the crucial question, why did he expect the 10th man to be out there? Because before that, all the 9 were out there. Whatever he knew was out there. He would naturally expose. He has no idea of anything else. There are 9 people. All of them are out there. The 10th person also should be there. Isn't there, therefore missing. MIA or KIA, killed in action. Drowned in action. All our experience, this is crucial to the understanding of Vedanta. This is what makes Vedanta very simple and very difficult at the same time. It's direct, elegant, powerful. If you get it this way, you need nothing else. If you don't get it this way, you need everything else. And with the hope that someday we will get it. But this is the crucial point, that everything that we have known till now, everything that we have experienced till now, everything that we have sought and desired and suffered from and enjoyed till now has been an object. It's something that we have seen, heard, smelt, tasted, touched. It's something that we have thought about, something that we have spoken about, something that we have felt about. Everything in our life has been an object. Even the word subject, we take an object to be the subject. When he says, who is the subject? Here, I am the subject. But it's an object, it's a body. No, the mind is the subject. But the mind is also an object, as we saw. The real subject, which is awareness itself, that we have no idea about. The moment we say awareness, we mix it up with some subject, with some object, and then we say, this is awareness, this thought is awareness, this idea is awareness, this perception is awareness. So no. That's already awareness mixed up with an object. Minus the objects, the pure subject is something we have absolutely no idea about. And this is what is being introduced here. This is why you have to do neti, not this, not this. Everything that you can experience is an object, therefore not I. Then finally, you will come to nothingness. So nothing, you have exhausted everything. Then you don't make the mistake that man made, that our 10th friend is dead, drowned. That's an obvious mistake to make. That's the danger of the Advaitic analysis. One may fall into nihilism, into nothingness. The same question is asked in the Upanishad. The Upanishad teaching is so extraordinary. It takes you to the 5 layers of the human personality. Whatever you may think I am, it shows you cannot be that. Then it does not tell you in positive terms what you are. It stops there. The immediate question comes, oh, then I don't exist. The Upanishad asks the question, Asad Brahma iti ched, Asad Brahma iti Veda ched. If you realize, if you think that Brahman is not there, Asanneva sabhavati, then you will not be, the speaker will not exist, but you do exist. And yet you are not what you think you are. Whatever you can think of, none of the candidates are you. Then what are you? Kena Upanishad says, Anya deva tadviditadato aviditadadhi. You are completely other than whatever is known. Then I am unknown. No, you are other than what is unknown. What is the only thing right now? Right now, if you look around, what is the only thing which is other than the known and other than the unknown? Other than the known is object. Whatever you see, hear, smell, taste, touch, think, remember, speak about, object, object, object. Other than that is unknown? No, but I, the awareness. I can't say I am unknown. Swami Vivekananda said to a group of people in London when he was talking, introducing this idea, you must not go away with the idea that it is unknown. It is more than the known. It is that awareness which is known first, and only in and through that awareness everything else is known. You are that witness consciousness, that awareness. This is exactly what Sri Ramakrishna says. Sheshe jat hake tai atma chaitanya. What remains at the end remains which cannot be denied. Descartes came very close to it in his project of doubting whatever could be doubted. The cogito ergo sum, the Descartes project of epistemological project, I will doubt whatever can be doubted, and then he finally found something that could not be doubted. What is that? My own existence. My own existence cannot be doubted. Why not? Because if I doubt my own existence, then that doubt is a thought, and I am the thinker of that thought. The doubter cannot be doubted. And in order to doubt my own existence, I must exist as the doubter. Nearly 1,000 years before Descartes, Adi Shankaracharya writes, Yaeva tasya nirakarta tasyaiva atmasa. Whoever is the negator, the denier of the Atma, it is the Atma of that very person. That very person exists. It's like saying with my mouth open, if I say, I cannot speak. You have contradicted yourself in the very act of asserting that you cannot speak. You have spoken. Similarly, doubting my own existence, I don't exist. You have proven that you exist. So he says, what remains? And why is that consciousness? clearly, whatever it is, two things you can say about it. It is, the Atma is, you are, you exist, and you must be aware. Otherwise, all these experiences wouldn't be possible. So, what is finally remains is consciousness, bare consciousness, pure consciousness, Chit, Jnana Swarupa, Samvit, Bodha, all these terms. There are many, many terms in Sanskrit which point to this. These ancient Indian philosophers, they were so much concerned, so much in investigating this truth. I am thinking about, it is said that the Eskimos have some 20 or 30 words for snow, varieties of snow and ice, because they are living in that environment. So, all sorts of varieties which we do. In Chicago, you might know a little more about snow. Similarly, about pure consciousness, there is really no clear word for that in English, or I think just about any of the other languages in the world. But in Sanskrit, there are more than one word, because they found this and they developed these terms to point to that reality. Ja thake tai chaitanya atma. That is the self which the Hindus talk about, pure consciousness. That slips through the net spread out by Nagarjuna to deny the existence of the self. Most extraordinary logician who lived more than 2000 years ago, so about 700 years before Adi Shankaracharya, in the south of India, in Andhra, what is Andhra now. So, Nagarjuna. If you combine Nagarjuna and then take up the Upanishads, take up Shankara, you will come next door to enlightenment itself, just by reading and understanding. Then, what happens? Nothing happens. He says, the question is now, after all of this, you will still see the world, you will see the body, you will have the sense of I also. The I will come up. I will come up again. Everything will come back. Body will come back. But that I which comes up again, so there are a lot of misunderstanding about this. After the enlightenment, a person goes beyond the mind, mano nasha, destruction of the mind. There is no ego after that. Let me tell you, at the risk of contradicting any number of highly revered, great enlightened masters of past ages, nonsense. Nonsense. Don't you see all of them? So, is there a body or not? We consider all of them to be enlightened. Are their bodies not? The bodies are there. In that body, is there a heart and a kidney and a liver? Yes. Are they functioning well? Hopefully. If that is functioning well, the brain is also functioning well, so mind will not function. Don't they recognize things? Don't they feel things? Don't they have perceptions? Yes. If the mind is also functioning well, won't the ego also function? Ego is a function of the mind. Don't they use the word I? They have used on occasion. So, all of it functions. There is a lot of misunderstanding, garbage which comes because their teachings are very precise and very subtle, and we don't get it. We make a mistake about it. Here Sri Ramakrishna clarifies. What does it mean the ego is not there? He says, he clarifies that the fourth point, Shorir thakte amar amitto ekebare jay na, ektu na ektu thakei. As long as this physical existence continues, the ego will also continue. It will not disappear. It will be there, but it will be a far weakened ego. It will not be something that you are completely, tightly embraced by. I am this ego. No, not at all like that. He gives an example about a coconut tree and the mark left on it when the branch falls off. Another place he has given an example about a rope which is burnt. After being burnt, it still looks like a rope, but if you blow upon it, it will fly away. It can't tie anybody. So, what do you do with this ego? I just make two more points and conclude. A few minutes more. Okay, we'll take up questions. Two quick points and conclude. How do you handle the ego after enlightenment? It will still be there. Sri Ramakrishna says, Dui rakom ami ache, ekta paka ami or ekta kacha. The ego has two varieties. One is the ripened ego, one is the unripe ego. The unripe ego, he says, Amar body, amar ghar, amar chele, egulo kacha ami. My house and my car and my property and my children, and this is the unripe ego. It comes through identification with body mind. What is the ripe ego? He says, Ar paka ami hocche, ami tar dash, ami tar shantan, ar ami shei nitto mukto gyan shorup. The ripe ego is, we can have in two modes, a devotional mode and a jnana, knowledge mode. The devotional mode is, there is God and I am the child of God, which Sri Ramakrishna preferred. Mother, the Divine Mother is there, I am the child of the Divine Mother. Or is something that the Gospel, the Kathamrita does not highlight. It highlights the devotional aspect because of, I think, the predilections of the compiler, Mahendranath Gupta, Master Mahashaya. Look at what Swami Brahmananda says. Another variety of the ripe ego is, I am pure, ever-free consciousness. Ami nitto mukto gyan sharup. This is also the ego. Aham Brahmasmi, still ego is there. But that ego is not body-mind. It's identified with the impersonal, ever-free consciousness. So these two ways, ego will not harm you at all. It will be perfect. It will work as, and you will be the Jivan Mukta, free while living. Last point. Fine. I am pure consciousness. I get it. 10th man. And I can continue living as the ego, which is either a devotee of God or I am pure consciousness. But then, this whole universe which I denied, neti neti, not the world, not the body, not the mind, not the prana. What is this universe then? This world, this body, mind, prana, this question still remains. And it is not non-duality. What we have done now is Sankhya. We have separated consciousness from everything else. What about non-duality? You're talking about embodiment of Advaita Vedanta. Next point. Point number 3. এক ব্যক্তি তাকে বলেছিলেন, আমার এক কথায় জ্ঞান হয় এই মতো উপদেশ দিন. Somebody asked Sri Ramakrishna, teach me in one sentence so that I become enlightened. Very wise person. If you say, teach me and make me enlightened, whole Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, 1,000 pages is there. But he says, teach me in one sentence. Parameter, he's restricting. Tell me one thing and I'll become enlightened. And Sri Ramakrishna says, তিনি বললেন, ব্রহ্ম সত্য জগৎ মিথ্যা এইটি ধারণা করো, ইহা বলিয়া চুপ করিয়া রহিলেন. Beautiful sentence. He says, Sri Ramakrishna replied immediately, Brahman is real, the world is an appearance, assimilate this truth, iti dharana karo. Having said this, Sri Ramakrishna kept quiet. Swami Brahmananda adds that. Having said this, Sri Ramakrishna fell quiet, fell silent, which is an emphasis that there is nothing more to be said. If this is enough for you, you are enlightened. Now this answers our question. I am pure consciousness. Then what is this universe? Mittha, it is an appearance in pure consciousness. It is nothing other than the pure consciousness. This world is something that appears to you, the consciousness. It appears in you, the consciousness, and it is nothing apart from you, the consciousness. The wave appears in the ocean, and it is nothing apart from the water of the ocean. The ornaments appear in the gold, and they are nothing apart from the gold. All the experiences and people and places in our dreams appear in the dreaming mind, and they are nothing apart from the dreaming mind. Similarly, by the inexplicable power of Maya, you, the pure consciousness, appear to yourselves as your universe. This universe is nothing but you. Therefore, not two, non-dual, Advaita. And thus is non-duality established. Thank you very much.
Questions are there.
Yes.
The one gentleman, Devashish, he has already heard you, but he wants to know once again, if you can please explain about the Turiya. Can you reiterate the same concept once, Turiya?
Once again, I am the master of once again. As many times as you want. The same thing. I have been saying the same thing all the time. You know, last 20, 25 years, as long as I have been teaching, I have been saying just one thing. I remember we were on the lecture tour in Australia and New Zealand, and there were 3 of us. So I was a speaker, and there was Swami Tyaganandaji and Swami Bhubaneswar. Tyaganandaji, who's the Swami in Boston, the Hindu chaplain for Harvard and MIT, and Swami Bhubaneswar, who is the Swami in our center in Germany. And we are all touring different universities in New Zealand and Australia. After listening to a few of my talks, Swami Bhubaneswar, who's very humorous, he said, tomorrow I will ask to speak first. Usually I was the junior most, so I was asked to speak first and then he would be speaking at the end. So tomorrow I'll be asked to speak first and I'll stand up and say, you are Brahman. And then Sarvapriyandanda will have nothing more to say because that's the only thing that he has got to say. Right. Exactly what we spoke about today. We followed the method of the Taittiriya Upanishad. Not the body, not the prana, not the mind, not the intellect, not the deep sleep, Anandamaya. I am the witness of all of them like the 10th man, not an object. That's what we did now. Same teaching is given in the Mandukya Upanishad using the language which Devashish has used. There, instead of talking about body, mind and all that, what they do is a little more difficult but more powerful. Take all of this, your waking state, and you the waker. So you the waking person experiencing this waking state, this is your world. And when you fall asleep and you dream, you are the dreamer and you have a dream world there. And then in deep sleep, I can't say that you are the deep sleeper and you have a deep sleep world there, but it's a kind of blankness, a kind of, pragyana ghana it's called. It's all mushed together as it were. No differences are there. The blankness of deep sleep. These three, waker and waker's universe, dreamer and dreamer's dream universe, and the deep sleeper and the deep sleep blankness, these three, count them, 1, 2, 3. And the Upanishad says there is one consciousness in which these three are appearing and disappearing. That one consciousness, let's call it, just for the sake of counting, 4. 4, the word for 4 in Sanskrit is Chatutham, 4th. Another word for 4 in Sanskrit is Turiyam. We think about Turiyam, what some amazing thing is said, it just means 4. And the 4 is actually not 4, it's 1. How? Shankaracharya says in his introductory verses to the Mandukya Karika, Maya Sankhya Turiyam. You count in Maya, you count in illusion, 1, 2, 3, and then 4. That 4th one is Brahman, but you realize the first 3 do not exist. If I say, I had 4 cookies, I had 1 cookie, I liked it so much, then when I dream, I had 3 more cookies. Can I say I have had 4 cookies? No, you can't count the dream cookies. You count only 1. Similarly, there is only one which appears and is experienced as the 3. As this gross physical experience of a universe, as the subtle experience of dreams, and as the causal experience of deep sleep. None of them are real. The reality is consciousness. What about me? You are that consciousness. You are that reality. Tat Tvamasi, and the Upanishad says, I am Atma Brahma. This very consciousness, Turiya, is the ultimate reality. That's Turiya.
His name is Revenge Devotee.
We'll just finish let's finish these questions first.
Revenge Devotee. So he took revenge on you.
Oh.
Same question again. Anyway, wonderful explanation. Then second come, Avik Dashgupta. His question is, Swamiji, how does Thakur's polytheistic approach align with Advaita?
Yeah, it's not polytheistic. First of all, Hinduism itself is not polytheistic. It just looks like that. Hinduism is very bewildering to the Abrahamic mind because remember, how did these Abrahamic religions develop? The original development was of Judaism, which came up in the pre-Judaic world. There were multiple tribes, each had a conception of divinity. They are often at loggerheads with each other and fighting. And a similar thing actually happened in the early part of the Rig Veda. Many people don't know that. But then these two civilizations, Indic and Middle Eastern, they took 2 divergent paths. 2 solutions were proposed. Multiple ideas of God. Now what do you do? What do you do? In the Middle East, what was proposed was, no. Ultimately, logically, spiritually, there is one divinity. And this multiplicity of divinities is false, or it's a lower idea, or outright false. God is only one. Which one? Mine, my God. Then what about the others? False. What do you do? Convince them by hook or crook, by reason or by force, that come to my side. My God, the God of my tribe, is the true God. The God of your tribe is a false God, and so it must be destroyed. So that was one option. And the same model was taken up by Judaism, and then by Christianity, and then by Islam. All of them, they have taken up the same model, to take up one and establish the truth of that one and destroy the rest, or say that the rest are not true. In India, the solution which was taken up was same problem. Early Vedic, you see that there are evidences, there is a conflict. The solution was ekam sat vipra bahuda vadanti. What a stroke of genius, that there is one truth, correct, but it can be expressed in so many ways. And all of these people in the different tribes expressing different lineages, expressing different forms of God, different ideas of God, they are all true. They are all true because that ultimate reality is beyond language, beyond expression. The moment you want to put it in language, in conception, in philosophy, in theology, you are bound to have variety. And that's good, it's not bad. Robert Wright, who has written a book, The Evolution of God, is a neo-Darwinist and an atheist. So the book is about the evolution of Judaism, Christianity and Islam. It doesn't talk about Indian religions. Only at the end, he says, what is the possibility of peace between the world religions? He says, there is only one possibility. A formula was discovered by the ancient Vedic people. The truth is one, the wise express it differently. If that formula can be accepted by the world religions, then only there is hope of peace. Same thing was said by Sri Ramakrishna. Same thing. Look what's written there, up there. As many faiths, so many paths. Yes. Now that reality is not only dualistic, not only God is there, I am the devotee, but also non-dualistic. That applies to non-dualism, qualified monism and dualism. So this is how Advaita and Sri Ramakrishna's quote-unquote polytheism, they go absolutely well together.
And the third is, Arvind is asking, Namaskar Swami, is Nagarjuna's Sunyavada as a positive philosophy or is it nihilism?
One of my favorite subjects, but I will not hold forth at length here. Buddha's birthday is coming up, Buddha Jayanti this month, May in fact. I have a topic which I will be speaking about from the Vedanta Society in New York, Buddhist Vedantic self and Buddhist no self, Atma, Anatma. I will speak about it at a lot of depth because I spent a few months at Harvard studying with one of the greatest modern professors of Nagarjuna, Professor J. Garfield, who is an expert in Tibetan Madhyamaka Buddhism. So we had a beautiful course, Indo-Tibetan Madhyamaka Buddhism, which studied starting from Nagarjuna through Chandrakirti, through the Tibetan masters, Mipham, Tsongkhapa. We as Hindus, we don't know this, we should study it. It can be scary. So I will show in that talk, I will spend most of it devastating all Hindu claims of God and Atman and all, and finally at the end come back like Sri Ramakrishna said and show you what actually the Advaitins mean by Atma. And you can see what the Tibetan Buddhists, the final development of Nagarjuna's thought is actually in Tibetan Buddhism, which is the philosophy of say the Dalai Lama and the Tibetan Buddhists. What they are pointing towards and what Advaita Vedanta is pointing towards is one and the same thing. If you want to put it in like a little bit of wordplay, I will say this. Nihilism, wrong way of understanding Shunyavada is to say they are saying there is nothing. That's wrong. It's unfair because Nagarjuna himself says in the Madhyamaka Karika, we are not talking about nothing. It is a travesty to accuse us that we are nihilists. We are not saying that there is nothing at all. The wrong way to understand Advaita is that they are talking about something. Advaita is not talking about something. Shunyavada is not talking about nothing. And the Madhyamaka Shunyavada and Advaita Vedanta, they are both talking about no thing. Not nothing, not something, no thing. What is this no thing? If you have followed what we did just now, the 10th man story, it will clearly point out the ultimate reality is not a thing, not an object. That does not mean it's nothing. Yes. There was a question there? And there are some questions there. Yeah, you can ask there, I'll repeat the question. Tell us your name.
You started with Thakur's first point that
Advaita Vedanta. যা ইচ্ছে তাই করো।
So you did expound on how to live. So my question is how to live a life of achievement with this Brahmava.
Let me answer that question number 1 first. The highest, the final, the ultimate achievement and the real achievement is to realize that you are Brahman. And then you live as an expression of that. Swami Vivekananda says, my mission in life can be put in a few words. It is to preach unto mankind their inner divinity and how to make it manifest in every movement of life. If I am Brahman, then how do I behave with others? What should my life be spent in? What should be my reaction to my own problems and to the world outside? All the answers will follow from there. If you want to know, practically tell me, look at the Jivan Muktas, look at the great masters, how did they live? My life should be something like that. Yes, second question.
You said that since this Brahma and this knowledge is universal and above the material knowledge, I believe from the concept of Bhuma, this is going to drive the lower manifestations. So how can this knowledge inspire tomorrow's innovations and life going forward?
Why do you need this knowledge to innovate tomorrow's, to get tomorrow's innovations? Modern capitalism and scientific drive is enough. And if you have a spiritual foundation for it, you'll be a better scientist. You'll be a better businessman, a better student, a better doctor, a better scientist also. I see that all the time. I mean, I've seen in academic circles some of the most competitive, narrow, jealous, petty, mean-minded people are some of the greatest Nobel Prize winners, and and I know this. And academicians in universities, they tell me that these are like little narrow ghettos, you know, with a lot of competition and nastiness and all. You think the business world is tough, try the academic world. So spirituality is always helpful. It's always, you know, wherever there is spirituality, in the business world, in the academic world, it's a much better life and a much better environment. There are questions there. Wait, they raised their hand first. Yes. Tell us your name and ask the question.
During general anesthesia, there is no first-person experience.
No.
As there is even in deep sleep. So, is there evidence for existence of consciousness during that time?
Right. See, until recently, consciousness studies experts, neuroscientists did not admit there was consciousness in deep sleep also. Now it slightly seems to be changing. Now,
the same type of question.
Yes.
So it will go the same way. He is asking Kamal Chaudhary, is it possible to be aware during deep sleep state?
Is it possible to be aware during deep sleep? It depends on what you mean by aware. I am in deep sleep now. You are not in deep sleep in that case. That is still the mind. That is still the mind. And why this problem comes is because we have not sufficiently distinguished ourselves from the mind. We are still stuck with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 10th, we are not coming there yet. It's such a radical turn. Once you understand the 10th man story, the answers to these questions also will come pretty easily. So there is deep sleep, awareness in deep sleep, because why? You wake up and you speak about it. Every culture has a report of deep sleep. I slept like a log. I didn't know anything. Every culture has an expression which relates to deep sleep. How would every culture in the world talk about deep sleep unless this was an experienced fact? But it's not an experienced fact through senses, because senses are sleeping. It's not an experienced fact through mind, because mind is also sleeping. So that is an extraordinarily different kind of experience. It's still experience. It points to the existence of consciousness in deep sleep. But what we mean by consciousness in Advaita Vedanta, not what consciousness studies means by consciousness. What consciousness studies and medical science means by consciousness is the empirical consciousness of thoughts, feelings, emotions, reaction. Same thing in principle, the same thing extends to general anesthesia, because people have reported to me, general anesthesia and deep sleep don't feel the same way. General anesthesia is like going into something and coming out of it. I have no recollection of anything in between. Even there it is there. It's just that, I was reading a paper on that. It might be a little scary. and after this you might not want general anesthesia. Some paper which reported general anesthesia actually does not prevent you from experiencing, it just erases the memory before you wake up. Did you read about something like this? I read about it. It's a scientific paper, and which is why some surgeons are not willing to take general anesthesia themselves. It's interesting, which means you might actually suffer and then you wake up without any recollection of anything. So that is a very weird thing. I don't know how true it is. Now let me give you some other kind of evidence which I have thought about myself for the existence of consciousness. Brain activity under general anesthesia and in deep delta, deep sleep, is there brain activity or not? And brain scientists would say plenty of brain activity is going on. Just there's some change in brain activity, and some things go darker, and there's so many other things that which are continuing. Now, if brain activity is seen as evidence of consciousness, then you must say there is consciousness all throughout, as long as the brain is alive. Okay. Then, yes. Oh, you had the lady there. Please tell us your name and ask the question.
Gratitude for the discourse today. My name is Shilpa. May Swamiji expand more about the unripe and ripe ego, such as how should one differentiate the emotional sensory experiences of a pure devotee's devotion, for example, Sri Ramakrishna's flowing tears in front of Ma Kali, versus that of an ordinary sadhaka with contact with sensory objects or
yes.
things, in which case, like, is it simply a difference of mental attitude and contact, or is there something more in that it's all expressions of illumination of that consciousness in the lens of Avarana Shakti and Vikshepa Shakti?
Right. First of all, you have to see that distinguish between an external appreciation of this and an internal experience, the phenomenological experience of enlightenment by the devotee. Inside, the difference would be stark. For a person who is genuinely practicing devotion and is sometimes experiencing these upsurges, these pure emotional states, and then again the mind goes back to a more ordinary state, which we all go through. That's one kind of experience. Or on the other end of the spectrum, a pathological, like a mental illness. Externally, that person maybe seems to be a lot of upsurge of emotion, but it could be a mental illness. But internally, the states would be clearly different. The enlightened person, God realization is a fact for that enlightened person. It's completely indubitable. It's like looking at the sun, you can't deny it. So internally, that person has absolutely no doubt about it. Especially the non-dual realization, that breakthrough is, I can talk about it more in detail, but not right now. It cannot be denied. In fact, all affirmation and denial depend on that consciousness. You have found something on the basis of which all epistemology takes place, basis of which you talk about all ontology and value. So that basis has been found. To deny that also would require the presence of that. So that's one. Externally, very difficult to make out. Still, one can make out there are some characteristics. Sri Ramakrishna himself says, in the presence of such a one, you will yourself experience an upsurge of spiritual elevation. He says, Ishwarer Uddipana hai. When we have seen this in the presence of very senior Swamijis, very advanced spiritual practitioners, you feel uplifted, you feel purified. At least for some time it lasts when you are in the vicinity of such a person. That's a good external indicator. I guess what more can I say? Yes. This gentleman, but we have run out of time, Maharaj.
I think
so. This last question here.
Just a short question.
Yes.
Yeah, one of my questions was already answered when you about the deep.
Tell us your name.
Narendra Malhotra.
Narendra Malhotra.
The second question, which is really not related to this, but you would be probably knowing it. Is mind an emerging property of a brain?
No.
So what is mind?
So from a Vedantic perspective, mind, body and the self. Actually, if you want to make it more fine-grained, we talk about the physical body, which is this, which is public, a doctor can examine it. Then we talk about a subtle body, which includes the mind. But the mind is not all of the subtle body. According to the Upanishads, the subtle body has 17 parts or 19 parts. It includes physiological processes like life itself. It includes mind, intellect, memory, ego, all of that. That's the subtle body. And then there's something called the causal body, which is basically the seed state of the subtle body, which we experience in deep sleep. And beyond that is the real you, which is consciousness. So you have a tripartite view of the human personality, and beyond that the real human, let us say, the real being, the real you, which is consciousness. So these three constitute the body-mind complex: physical body, subtle body, causal body. Now you'd say, why would you call the mind a separate subtle body? Why not just an emergent property of the brain? Well, one reason is, notice the sharp difference between the mind and the physical body. The physical body, everybody can see here. The doctor can examine it. It can be weighed. It's a part of the physical universe. It uses constituents of this physical universe. It's made of materials. It's a biological machine. But the mind, which we cannot deny, we have minds. All of us have minds. We have thoughts. What is its relation to the brain? Can we reduce the mind thoughts to the brain? Take any thought. Just think 2 + 2 = 4. Where is that thought? Ask no scientist in the world, no neuroscientist, no doctor, nobody can point out where that thought is. The last thing that any scientist can point to is tiny bits of electrical activity in the neurons. It has to be, because a scientist has to observe data in the physical world. The last bit of data would be activity in the neurons. What is the relation between tiny bursts of electrical activity and the thought which you have just now, 2 + 2 = 4? There is some relation, there is some correlation, clearly. But is it causal? Is one producing the other? If so, how? This is called the hard problem of consciousness. If you Google it, you'll find it's the hot topic in consciousness studies now. There's a whole volume which I can recommend to you, The Irreducible Mind. It's a volume of entirely peer-reviewed scientific papers. It goes into great detail why we can't reduce the mind to brain states. I did a course at Harvard University 2 years back on the philosophy of mind. So we were exposed to the entire range of reading. And I can tell you, this one subject, it has stalled. Nothing, no forward movement in that subject. The last person who said anything interesting in that subject, 300 years ago, Descartes. After that, he set up the mind-body dualism. After that, all the papers you see in the last 100 years, clearly two kinds of papers. One kind which is trying to reduce the mind to brain states, neuronal activity, language, behavior, Skinner and others. And the other group of papers saying, look guys, it isn't working. Thomas Nagel, What is it like to be a bat? Jackson's mental experiment on Mary who never saw the color red, Searle's Chinese room experiment. All of these papers are giving forward reasons why mind cannot be reduced to brain. So the Vedanta says mind is not the brain, but it is, the relation is something like software and hardware. They're intimately connected. You affect one, the other will be affected. Serious mental illness will affect you physically. And physically, if you affect the body, clearly the mind will be affected immediately. Take a cup of coffee, you don't have to take medicines also. Take a cup of coffee, your mind will feel more alert. So they are intimately connected. Of course, it is your machine, the laptop there and the software running there are intimately connected. And in fact, the laptop cannot function without the software cannot function without the laptop. And yet they are not the same. The laptop may be destroyed, the data can be backed up and you can get it in another laptop. They are not literally the same thing. So Vedanta, Sankhya, in fact all Indian philosophies except the Charvaka, the materialist reductionist, all Indian philosophies, in fact in principle all religions of the world make this claim that mind is not reducible to the brain. Okay, thank you so much.
Like this, he said, Ariji, is there any relation between the matter and the consciousness?
Oh, this is the... Okay, let me give a quick answer. I can give a whole talk or series of talks on this. All of Indian philosophy can be seen as a commentary on this question, relation between matter and consciousness. Okay, let us take these two, matter and consciousness. I'll give you 5 views on that. Quickly, we'll run through it, one sentence each. What is the relation between matter and consciousness? One view is that consciousness originates from matter. Who says that? Modern science says it. How? We don't know, but we just say it. Nobody knows really. But consciousness originates from matter. Matter is living matter like brains. One scientist in New York, City University of New York, Massimo, he said, I'm convinced that consciousness is a property of living brains and nervous systems. That's it. So this is one view. Consciousness originates from matter. The opposite view, matter originates from consciousness. Who says this? All theistic religions of the world, God is the creator of the universe. Your God is conscious or unconscious? Of course conscious. So consciousness is the creator of the material universe. Religions say that God creates universe. Third view, neither originates from the other. Consciousness and matter are the permanent parallel realities. Eternal, and they interact, but they are not originating from each other. They are independent realities interacting. Who says this? Sankhya, Prakriti Purusha. Yoga philosophy of Patanjali, Prakriti Purusha. Fourth view, the Shunyavada, Madhyamaka view. Consciousness and matter are dependent on each other, therefore both are equally false. They are like two sheaves of hay leaning, Chandrakirti's example. Two sheaves of hay leaning on each other. Take out one, the other will fall also. There he means by consciousness our empirical consciousness, I, thinking, all these things. Then Advaita view. Consciousness, matter is the dream of consciousness. Consciousness is the only reality, matter is an appearance in consciousness. Nivedita once said to Swami Vivekananda, after hearing about Shiva and Shakti and all, she said to Vivekananda, can we say that Kali is the dream of Shiva? Vivekananda thought for a moment, he laughed and he said, well, have it your way. Have it your way. Thank you.
Oh, I'm not going to thank him because it is already done by that. Only the food that I am going to offer you below, please go and have some food. This is the wonderful intellectual, the food that we have got from him. Now go down, have some prasad and think about it, who is eating. Friends, this is a Chicago calling, this e-zine that we publish every 3 months. So it will be available. If you are interested, you can pick up one copy. Thank you. And I will give one copy to our Sarvapriyananda ji. Thank you. So the moment we will give, we will just finish reading immediately and remember what is there. Actually, one thing I like to announce, friend, many of you know that on 21st May, there will be an inauguration of the Home of Harmony. All this thing that he was telling, so all philosophy, every time, every month, every week we will be discussing on that. We like to bring different faiths together and to understand each other. That's all Home of Harmony. 21st May at 10:30, we will have a small procession, hardly say 500 feet we'll go and then enter into the building. Nearly 14 Swamis are coming, all over the Swamis from North America. They'll be here, you can see them, you can talk to them. Swami Sarvapriyananda ji, again he will visit. He has agreed very kindly. He is very busy, but still he will be coming again. And on 21st evening, all the Swamis will come to our Hindu temple, Lemont. Lemont Hindu temple, they have invited us and they are assuring us that weather will be good, and open air meeting we will discuss, all the Swamis will discuss on the morality. Next day, 22nd May morning from 11 to 1, 2 hours, All the Swamis will be here. I think we will arrange it in our basement auditorium. So all 10, 12 Swamis will be there, and we will be discussing about 125th year of our organization. So that will be a unique approach, how all these thoughts will be lost if the organization is not there. An organization, the core part of the organization, monastics, and the external part are you. As you were telling, the consciousness and the body, both are necessary, otherwise how the work will go. So you are the body, and you are the main Ramakrishna mission. So we will be discussing about it on 22nd. And if you are having the email addresses with me, every time you will be, me means Vedanta Society, you will be getting all our informations. You are all welcome. Only request, please RSVP, because we are planning a very big food packet for you. So, and if you are not RSVP, then afterwards we have to share, half of them have to give. So please RSVP, they write, Swamiji, 3 or 4 persons, these are the names, we are coming over there. Nobody is going to check. Only just we will have the count so that we can place the order beforehand. Please cooperate. Thank you very much.